Zareth 9 was a world of sharp contrasts, gleaming towers, and marble arenas, rising from a planet scarred by slavery and bloodsport. Located at the fringes of the lawful galaxy, it was where the wealthy and powerful came to indulge their darkest desires, far from the reach of proper Republic law. It was a place where morality came second to amusement. To the Zarathi elite, suffering was a form of sport, and the more exotic the victim, the better the entertainment. Into this festering heart of decadence walked a human, Corporal Race Anders, a former Terran shock trooper turned freelance contractor. Race had seen war. He had faced bioterror weapons, watched comrades die, and fought through the frozen trenches of the Iridium Front. And though the war had ended, the ghosts had not left him. He wasn't on Zareth 9 for pleasure. He had taken a quiet job, engineering work, security consultations, things that kept his hands busy and his mind off the past. The elites found him amusing, a death world savage, and invited him occasionally to their private lounges like a novelty. Race tolerated it, mostly for access, sometimes for information. But he never played their games. That night, however, they crossed a line. It began with drinks and arrogance. The Zarathi hosts laughed and told stories of pit champions and broken toys. Then, with twisted grins, they unveiled their latest joke. 2 guards dragged her in, a young alien woman, small and frail. She didn't resist, just stumbled as though used to being pulled like furniture. Her body was thin and bruised, her gray-blue skin marred by old scars. Her tail twitched nervously beneath her rags, and her curved horns once regal, likely a symbol of her species, were chipped and cracked. She didn't speak. She didn't cry. She simply knelt in the center of the room, head bowed, trembling. One of the guards scoffed. "This one's broken. Barely survived 2 cycles in the pits. Can't fight, can't entertain. Worthless." Another chuckled. Thought, "You humans like taking in strays. She's yours now, a gift." They expected laughter, some cruel spectacle. Maybe for Race to throw her down or mock her like they did. But Race didn't move. He didn't even blink. He just stared, and what he saw wasn't a broken toy. It was a person, a wounded, terrified person who had been dehumanized to the point of complete submission. Someone who probably hadn't heard a kind word in years. Someone they expected him to harm for fun. Race stood. The room quieted. Joke stalled mid-sentence. He took the heavy cloak off his shoulders and walked toward her. The girl flinched, instinctively expecting pain. Instead, Race crouched, gently wrapped the cloak around her, and whispered, "It's okay." She didn't react at first. The concept of safety was likely alien to her. But she allowed herself to be covered, her violet eyes wide with disbelief. Without a word to the onlookers, Race lifted her easily like a feather and turned his back on the entire room. "What the hell are you doing?" one of the Zarathi demanded. Race didn't answer. "Where are you taking her?" Still silence. The laughter died. Even the drunkest among them could feel it. This wasn't how the game was supposed to go. Humans were supposed to be predictable, violent, controllable. But Race's quiet rebellion, his refusal to play along, unsettled them more than any outburst could have. He carried the girl out of the chamber, through the sterile hallways of the Pleasure Dome, and into the cold, star-speckled night of Zareth 9's upper atmosphere. His ship, Respite, sat just beyond. The landing platform's old, dented, but reliable. A Terran shuttle he'd modified over the years with everything he needed to survive alone. It wasn't a palace, but it was safe. He laid her on the medbed, dimmed the lights, and began running scans. Her condition was worse than he thought. Fractured RIBS, torn muscles, embedded tracking chips, malnourishment. Someone had erased her biological ID, but she was alive. As the scanner worked, Race sat nearby and whispered, "You're safe now." No one here will hurt you." She didn't respond. She curled in on herself and lay perfectly still, like she was trying to disappear. Race didn't push. He simply stayed, watching, waiting. He didn't know her name. He didn't know her story, but in that moment, one thing became clear. The first days aboard Respite were filled with silence, not peaceful, but fragile. It was the silence of someone holding their breath, waiting for the next pain to come. Race knew that silence well. The alien girl he'd carried out of the Zarathi. Pleasure Dome lay still in the medbay cot, wrapped in the cloak he had given her, but she didn't rest. Her eyes remained open, distant, and watchful. She didn't speak. She didn't eat when he was looking. She didn't move unless she had to. She flinched at sudden sounds and jerked away from touch, even gentle ones. When Race walked too close, she would freeze, every muscle in her body locked, like a hunted animal expecting the kill shot. That was how she had survived. Race didn't ask her name. He didn't try to comfort her with forced words or hollow promises. He simply let her be. He repaired damaged wiring in the engine bay, cleaned and prepared meals, and occasionally passed by her room to leave fresh water and food on a tray near the door. The first few days, the food remained untouched until he left. Then, slowly, she began to take tiny bites, always making sure he wasn't watching. Race watched everything from a distance, not to control, but to understand. He saw the way she avoided corners, how she curled up with her back to the wall, and how she tensed every time he moved. He remembered that fear, the kind that carved itself into your bones. Long after the fight was over, when he did speak, it was calmly, plainly about the weather systems over Earth, the music of rain, the rustling of wind through trees. Not about her. Not about what had been done to her. If she wanted to talk, she would. Instead, he offered something she had likely never been given: freedom without demand. The medical scans told their own story. Dozens of healed and unhealed fractures, nerve scarring, remnants of pain trigger implants embedded near her spinal cord. Whoever had handled her before did so without care. She had been treated like a machine worked to the breaking point, then discarded. Race carefully disabled the remaining control nodes and extracted one of the smaller implants from her shoulder while she was asleep. He didn't restrain her, didn't sedate her deeply, just made sure she was safe. When she awoke groggy and saw the implant sitting in a jar beside the bed, her eyes widened with confusion. "You took it out," she whispered. It was the first time she'd spoken since arriving. Race, sitting across the room and sipping tea, simply nodded. "You don't need it anymore." That night, she didn't eat in secret. She sat cross-legged on the floor near the galley, still wrapped in the old cloak, and ate quietly as he worked nearby on a damaged drone. She didn't speak again for several days, but something had changed. She started to follow his movements, not closely, not with curiosity, but wariness mixed with something new, a hint of trust. He introduced her to old Terran music. Soft instrumental pieces with calm rhythms. Classical, ambient, sometimes tribal. He played them low on the ship's speakers while he worked. She didn't react at first, but one night he caught her swaying just slightly to the beat. Barely. Noticeable. Progress didn't come in leaps. It came in fragments. She began to help placing tools nearby without being asked, cleaning up her dishes, folding her blanket in the mornings. Race didn't praise her, didn't celebrate. He treated each action with quiet normalcy. Then came the night it all shifted. Race was passing the medbay when he heard her voice, barely above a whisper. "Why?" He paused, turned. "Why what?" he asked softly. Her violet eyes locked onto his for the first time, not with fear, but confusion. "Why, not hurt me?" Race moved slowly, kneeling a respectful distance away. "Because no one should hurt you." Ever. She stared for a long moment. Then her voice cracked. But they all did. Race didn't have an answer for that. Not one that would make the pain vanish. So instead, he told her something simple. Something honest. I'm not them. That was the night her silence began to break. The next morning, she asked what the stars were called, not in her language. In his. And when he showed her Earth's night sky on the view screen, she whispered the word, beautiful. Not everything was fixed. Not even close. Trust is never given, it's earned, moment by moment. In the quiet days that followed her question, why not hurt me? Something shifted between Race and the alien girl. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't a sudden transformation. But it was undeniable. She no longer curled into corners when he entered the room. She still flinched at loud sounds and unexpected motion, but her body no longer screamed terror. Now it whispered caution. A vast improvement. Race never forced conversation. He let her initiate things. When she asked what Earth was like, he showed her images: rolling green fields, oceans, rainforests, and deserts. When she asked about clouds, he explained the weather systems, how they moved like living things. When she asked what animals were, he showed her wolves, deer, birds, cats, even jellyfish. She was mesmerized. There was something deeply innocent about her. Curiosity, like someone finally allowed to dream after a lifetime in darkness. She wanted to learn not about herself, not yet, but about the world. Race didn't question it. He gave her knowledge the way he had given her space, openly, gently, and without expectation. She still hadn't given her name. Race wasn't sure if she had one or if it had been stripped from her, the way her freedom had been. Either way, he didn't pry. One day, as she helped him organize parts for a drone repair, she asked what his name meant. Race? He said, pausing, it's an old Earth name. Comes from a word that used to mean grace or race, depending on the region. She frowned slightly, clearly puzzling it out. So you move fast or you're kind? Maybe both, he smiled. She didn't laugh, but her lips twitched almost to smile. That night, she watched an old Terran animated film. It was one of Race's favorites, The Lightkeeper's Daughter, a soft, sad story of a girl who was born blind but could hear the stars and eventually guided a lost fleet home. After the film, the girl sat in silence, staring at the screen long after the credits faded. Then she said it. Luma. Race turned. What? My name, she said. Quietly. I want it to be Luma. Race's chest tightened. It means light in your stories, right? Yes, he said softly. It does. She nodded, as if confirming it to herself. I don't want the name they gave me before. I don't even remember it. But I want this one. I want to be something else now, not what they made me. Something brighter. He didn't smile. He didn't rush to congratulate her. He simply said, then that's who you are. Luma. It was the first thing she chose for herself, and from that moment, everything began to change. She started learning faster, reading Terran Standard, practicing pronunciation, asking questions about words, ideas, cultures. She listened to music and memorized lyrics, even hummed sometimes when she thought he wasn't listening. And she moved differently too, not always skittish, not always shrinking. She began helping him with repairs, not just handing tools, but assisting with code calibration and minor engineering tasks. Race encouraged her, taught her how to safely disassemble parts, how to weld and insulate wires, how to fix the ship's failing gravity regulators. It wasn't just healing. It was rebuilding. One night, as they worked late repairing an external drone arm, she asked, why do you still help me? I'm not useful. Race didn't look up from his work. You're not here to be useful. You're here because you matter. But I can't repay you. He finally turned to her, meeting her gaze. You don't owe me anything. That's what freedom means. Luma looked at him, eyes shimmering in the glow of the workbench lights. She said nothing, but he could tell. Those words pierced deeper than kindness. They meant truth. That night, she slept in a real bed, not on the floor, not in the corner, but properly tucked in. And in the morning, she made breakfast. It was terrible, half burnt. The proportions wrong, but she was beaming with pride as she offered it. Race ate every bite in her own quiet way. Luma was beginning to live. Peace, especially for those who have lived in torment, is fragile. And Luma's peace, so recently won, was never going to last without challenge. By now, weeks had passed since Race had taken her from the Zarathi elites. The girl they called Broken had slowly but steadily grown into someone else. Someone more confident, curious, even defiant in quiet ways. Luma. She now helped with repairs on Respite, could speak fluent Terran Standard, and had started showing interest in defensive systems and self-protection. Race didn't discourage her. He taught her how to fight, not to attack, but to escape, defend, and survive. She picked up techniques quickly, her memory razor-sharp. It was as if her mind, denied stimulation for so long, had become desperate to absorb and reclaim its stolen years. But Race knew they were on borrowed time. Zarath 9 was not a forgiving place. The elites didn't like being embarrassed, and they didn't forget. By removing Luma from their possession, Race hadn't just rescued someone. He had shamed them. Worse, he had defied their order, their twisted idea of control. And nothing made tyrants more dangerous than losing face. The warnings came subtly at first. A delayed supply drop. A local mechanic suddenly refusing to do business. Surveillance drones spotted near the shuttle, always just outside the legal perimeter. Race ignored them until the ambush. It was late. Race was outside Respite, working on one of the ship's external heat regulators. Luma was inside, running diagnostics on the medbay systems. They were finally feeling safe enough to think about longer-term repairs, even maybe leaving Zarath 9 behind soon. Then came the strike. They moved fast 6 Zarathi enforcers in stealth armor, cloaked until they were inside the shuttle. No warning, no communication. The plan was simple. Take Luma and vanish before Race could respond. But Luma wasn't the same girl they had tossed at his feet weeks ago. She fought. Though smaller and still recovering, she used every skill Race had taught her. She struck fast, fought dirty, and knew the layout of the ship better than any of them. She jammed their comms, lured 2 of them into tight corridors where their armor became a liability. She even managed to disarm one and knock out another with a repurposed med armature. But they were too many. They beat her down. By the time Race returned, Luma was on the floor, bruised, bleeding, but still trying to crawl toward the emergency beacon. He didn't hesitate. Race launched himself into the fray with the rage of a Terran soldier who had seen this before, the strong preying on the helpless, the powerful treating people like playthings. He didn't just fight, he demolished them. His strikes were precise, brutal, and unrelenting. 3 were down within seconds. The others fled, dragging their injured away. When the fight was over, the interior of Respite was trash-cracked walls, sparking wires, blood smeared across the floor. Race rushed to Luma. Her breathing was shallow, her eyes glassy. "You're gonna be okay," he said, gathering her in his arms. She winced. I stopped them." "You did," he said. "You were brilliant." She smiled faintly, then winced again. "You said I was light," she whispered. "Still true?" Race choked back the tightness in his throat. "Always." He carried her to the medbay and activated every recovery system available. She had fractured ribs, a dislocated shoulder, and severe bruising, but no internal bleeding, no brain trauma. She would live, but Race had had enough. He sat in the medbay, staring at her sleeping form. She'd nearly died again, not because she was weak, but because someone decided she was theirs to take back. That moment hardened something in him. This wasn't just about her anymore. It was about everyone like her. He transmitted a priority level. Distress signal to the Terran Republic marked CivDef Alpha, the highest possible request for intervention on behalf of an endangered civilian. He included scans of Luma's injuries, DNA traces from the attackers, footage from Respite's internal cams. He ended the message with 5 words: "You need to see this." Terran Command responded within hours. A warship. The TRS Valiant was already rerouting. Zareth 9 had crossed a line. Luma's second recovery was different. The bruises faded. The broken ribs knit themselves back together, aided by the advanced Terran medbay aboard Race's ship. But more importantly, something stronger was healing beneath the surface. Her identity, her belief that she deserved to live, to speak, to fight for more than just survival. And this time, she wasn't healing in silence. This time, she asked questions, pushed herself, even smiled. There was pain still, yes, but now there was purpose behind every breath. While she recovered, Race wasn't idle. He had sent encrypted reports to the Terran Republic before, but now, with Zarathian forces attacking a human citizen and his ward on sovereign ground, there was no delay. Earth responded with urgency. 2 weeks later, the TRS Valiant, a Terran warship bristling with firepower and diplomatic immunity, arrived in orbit over Zareth 9. It was a show of force not only to protect Race, but also to assert something. The galaxy often forgot. Humanity didn't abandon its own. An ambassador, a tall, silver-haired woman named Dr. Miriam Cole, descended in a formal shuttle. She walked onto Race's ship not with soldiers, but with lawyers, medtechs, and an interspecies rights committee. Luma met her at the airlock. Not hiding behind Race, not trembling, standing, chin high. "I'll speak," she said, her voice clear, though not without tremor. "I want the galaxy to know." Race simply nodded. "You don't have to." "I want to," she said. "That's the point." Over the next 3 days, Luma gave a full account: her capture, the pit fights, the pain conditioning implants, the humiliation, the moment she was gifted to Race, and then, finally, what he gave her instead: freedom, dignity, a name. The evidence corroborated every word. Race's shuttle recorded everything, from her condition when she arrived, to the implants he removed, to the fight with the Zarathian forcers. Luma's body bore the scars. Race's scans bore the data. And the ship's black box bore the truth. With this avalanche of proof, the Terran delegation moved swiftly. The Zarathi elites protested, loudly. They denied, obfuscated, threatened political backlash. Earth didn't flinch. A coordinated diplomatic operation began. Terran ships delivered the evidence to the Galactic Rights Tribunal. They made it public, uploaded to open holonets. Soon, across half the galaxy, screens blinked on in markets and ports and homes, showing Luma's hollow eyes when she first arrived. Her broken voice. Her courage to testify. She became a symbol, but not a helpless one. A week later, Luma stood on a Terran diplomatic dais beside Race. In front of billions. "I was taken and treated like property," she said. "Beaten until I could no longer resist, given away like meat. And then a human gave me a blanket, and silence, and time." She looked at Race, then back at the audience. "He didn't rescue me like in your stories." He waited. He listened. And when I asked to choose for myself, he stepped back. She took a breath. "I chose a name. I chose to live, and now I choose to speak for every being still in a cage." The silence that followed was heavy. The kind That precedes a storm. And the storm came. Within days, Zareth 9's entertainment rings were stormed by Republic-backed coalitions. Dozens of elite rings were exposed for trafficking. Hundreds of victims were rescued, and across alien forums and feeds, one name began to rise: Luma. Not as a victim, but as a voice. She refused offers to return to her homeworld if it still existed. She refused to become someone's banner. Instead, she founded a network backed by Terran, funding and volunteers dedicated to locating and freeing victims of abuse across the outer sectors. Race never asked for credit. When people called him a hero, he shook his head. "I didn't fix her," he said once. She wasn't broken, she was wounded. And wounded things don't need heroes. They need space to heal. She did the rest. Luma remained by his side not as someone in debt, but as someone who chose to walk with him. And when she was asked why she stayed, she simply said, "He never made me. That's why." Together they traveled to new worlds. Race provided protection, logistics, calm wisdom. Luma carried the fire. The message. She was never handed to anyone again, from the moment. Race gave her a reason to live.